The Summer Birds by Penelope Farmer, Part 1, 5. The next morning, Emma, who was vain, wore her best blue checked gingham dress, in which someone had once told her she looked sweet, and brushed her dark curly hair till it crackled. Charlotte guessed that Emma was jealous of her because of the secret she suspected, and was hoping that the boy would be there again. When Emma saw Charlotte looking at her, she said sweetly, "Please, Charlie, will you tie my hair ribbon for me?" and giggled all the way through breakfast while their grandfather Elijah read his newspaper. Once he even looked up, peering around the pages, over the pot of Oxford marmalade and the bulbous toast rack, over their silver mugs toward Emma to say, frowning, "That's quite enough of that," in a warning way, his gray eyebrows drawn together. But still, Emma giggled, though more quietly, while Charlotte, growing cross, kicked her warningly under the table and watched the quivering of the voluminous pages of the Times, behind which their grandfather was hidden. After breakfast, they set out once more down the drive, their satchels bumping on their backs. The swallows flew high again, which meant that the day would be fine. Already it was a joyful, many-colored morning that should not be spent in a chalk-filled classroom, thought Charlotte, unusually resentful. Once more the boy was standing in the lane by the hedge. He looked up at them as they came toward him. "Here again?" he said disinterestedly. His stick moved continuously among the grasses. "Hello," answered Emma crossly, because yesterday he had gone with Charlotte. The boy laughed at her mockingly. "Don't be such a cross patch," he said. "It's much too good a morning, isn't it, Charlotte?" "Yes, it is," said Charlotte stiffly, though yesterday she had known him so well. Since yesterday she had thought of little but him and flying. Yet, faced again with his mocking eyes, she looked at her feet, scuffing a pebble into the road. Yet, faced again with his mocking eyes, she looked at her feet, scuffing a pebble into the road edge under the overhanging grasses, and did not know what to say. She could feel herself blushing and hated her own stupidity. Emma giggled at her. "Charlie's blushing," she said, "Charlie's blushing," she said heartlessly. Charlotte looked into the air, into the sun-filled sky, rather than look at the boy. She was sad because she knew that today he would go with Emma, and because she thought he laughed at her. But he only said, "Cheer up, two cross patches on such a morning. Come on, or we shall be late." Emma chattered all the way down to the school, her crossness over, but Charlotte watched the boy and saw his strangeness far more clearly than she had done the day before, when knowing him was new. How like a bird he was, the way his nose sprang out from his face like a beak, his bright, straight eyes, even his walk, springy, half ungainly, half graceful, the jerky step of a long-legged bird. The freckles on his nose were not haphazardly scattered as most people are. It came to her that they made a cockle-shell on his face, the top at the bridge of his nose, the span of it stretching out equally over his cheeks on either side. She pondered, too, an action of his, a sudden snatch with the hand from the air to his mouth, or else a swift thrust of his head, the mouth open and immediately snapped shut. She noticed it again now and thought it like a bird, an insect-catching bird, and in proof saw the glint of an insect in the hand that went swift to his mouth. "Do you eat insects?" she burst out, horrified, forgetting her silent shyness. "Of course, it's my breakfast and I'm hungry," he answered, mocking her horror. "You should try them. They're tasty bites. Bees are best, but you have to be careful not to eat the stings. Grasshoppers are good too." She could scarcely believe it, and looked at him wide-eyed in wonder, while Emma skipped in the lane and cried, "Do you really? Will you teach me to?" and plagued him with all the questions Charlotte dared not ask, but he refused to answer. Inside the school gates it happened. When Emma ran off to find her friends, the boy went loping after her and left Charlotte sad and alone. She walked slowly and miserably across the yard to where Maggot Hobbin was skipping by herself away from the other girls. They liked each other, these two, Charlotte Makepeace and Maggot Hobbin, though neither ever said much to the other. Charlotte, indeed, did not understand Maggot at all, though Maggot seemed to know most things about her, for she had a strange, wise way of looking at people that made her seem omniscient. Now she just said hello to Charlotte very briefly and went on skipping, to finish the figure she had started. Her long, dark hair whipped scarum around her face. That done, she handed one end of the rope to Charlotte, and they skipped in unison, a jumping pair, quiet in the yard full of chatter like starlings. But all the time, Charlotte was watching the boy unseen behind Emma, who shouted with Annie and Molly in a corner. Jammy Hat came running over to Maggot as they were skipping, his knee skinned. He was trying to hold back the tears which pushed from his eyelids at the pain. He was a little round, bouncy boy, and he did not want to shame himself in front of the big boys, but he would not run in his smallness to the other mothering girls. Maggot, who never treated him as a little child, found a grubby handkerchief and gravely bound up the knee for him. She smiled her shy, wide smile, and he ran off happy again to join the others. "Poor Jammy," said Charlotte, smiling because he was so small and feeling motherly toward him. "No, he's all right," said Maggot severely, and then she said, "How did you meet him?" indicating Emma with her head. "Oh!" cried Charlotte in surprise. "I thought nobody could see him except us." "But I can," said Maggot. "My great-uncle taught me such things," she added, but she saw Charlotte's reluctance and asked no more. In school, when Charlotte looked up halfway through the second lesson, the boy and Emma were gone. How hot, how stifling, how aching hot it was. How she wished she could go too, but she could only sit, bowed over her arithmetic book. As if to increase her longing, she suddenly heard Emma's laugh from the meadow, and in the sky a long way off what seemed to be a huge bird rose briefly and then was gone. And that is the end of chapter 5.